A name that ends with AS is the same name even if it ends with AH. For example, Zachariah is Zacharias. Azariah is Azarias. With that in mind, if you were to replace the H with a S and spell Elias backwards, you will come up with the name Haile, whom is Elijah, otherwise known as Haile Jah. And he is supposed to be here in the latter years. So let's read. Testament of Benjamin. And there shall arise in the latter days one beloved of the Lord, of the tribe of Judah and Levi. Why? Because the Lord is God himself, Israel, the father of both Judah and Levi. So ask yourself this. Is Jesus the Son of Man? Yes. So prophecy, O Son of Man, you must say to the wind, this is what the sovereign Lord Jehovah has said. In other words, the Son of Man cannot be the Lord Jehovah. From the four winds come in, O wind, and blow upon these killed people, that they may come to life. And I prophesied just as he had commanded me, and the breath proceeded to come into them, and they began to live and stand up upon their feet, a very great military force. In other words, only Jah, also known as Elias, can bring them back to life. That's why it says, Master, it's good for us to be here, and let us make 3 tabernacles, one for thee, one for Moses, and one for Elias. In other words, Elias is God himself, also known as Haile. Because if you spell Elias backwards, you will get Haile if you replace the S with a H. So who is Elias? Jacob. Lord Jacob, blessed is he who shall have seen you before he dies. Elijah enveloped in the whirlwind. Remember, Elijah and Moses go up into the clouds. So while he thus spoke, there came a cloud and overshadowed them, and they feared as they entered into the cloud. And there came a voice out of the cloud from Elias, saying, this is my beloved son Moses, hear him. In other words, both Moses and Elias are angels. So Moses go by the name of Job. So how was Job made? The Spirit of God have made me, and the breath of the Almighty have given me life. That's what Job was formed by God. That's why it's written, he also referred to Job, who always preserved in the right path. In other words, Job is one of Christ's many names as the angel of the Lord. Who is Elijah? So Elijah, filled with a twofold portion of his spirit, wrought many marvels by his mercy word. Remember, God made the word. During his lifetime, he feared no one, nor was any man able to intimidate his will. Nothing was beyond his power. Why? Because Elijah is God himself. Beneath him, flesh was brought back into life. In other words, Elijah is the one who brings the military force back to life. And the Son of Man, prophecy about it. In other words, the Son of Man is not Elijah, also known as Haile Selassie, whom is alive. So let's watch. If you don't know.
Haile Selassie, thrice great, from the house of Sheba, was also called the conquering lion of Judah, the same title held by King David in the Bible. Selassie was...
Remember, the root of David is Jacob himself, and Jacob is God. Hello.
225th in descent from the line of King Solomon. Soon we were driving along in my disciples' Austin, Cambridge. Our guides, who had established contacts with the House of Ethiopia, were very happy to be party to this great meeting. I was told to keep this meeting a secret because His Majesty was a guest of the royal family of England, and for all practical purposes, to the African and Rastafarian religious communities, he was thought to have left his bodily abode in 1975. However, this was untrue, as I recall meeting with him 7 years later in 1982.
Hello. He's not the only one to say he's alive.
Because the reason
Say it again, you don't believe Haile Selassie is buried here.
Because we don't believe Haile Selassie is buried here. The reason is when they found the body under the toilet from his former palace, they measured the body. So this body was 170 centimeter, but the height of Haile Selassie was 165. Yeah, and at that time, the communist leader, Prime Minister Mengistu, he sent him to Dredawa with Volkswagen car, and the people told us when he get to Dredawa, at that time, 1,000 people gathered and welcomed him. And in the 3 or within 5 days, he disappeared.
And that's why Mengistu started killing everybody?
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's not dead.
Yeah, it's difficult to say so, but yeah.
But he's also been sighted in Ethiopia, His Imperial Majesty.
Yeah.
And I know an Italian man who also saw him in the late 90s in Italy.
Hello, and he was seen in Brooklyn in 2002, and he was also seen up in the mountains in West Virginia in 2017. In other words, the King of Kings cannot die. He's an ever-living God with many, many, many names.
He became governor of the province.
Remember, the real God governed his people and ate and drank amongst them. He's not someone in the sky. He's not an idol in the sky or a painting in the sky. He's a real living God that became King of Kings, conquering line of the tribe of Judah. Why? Because he is Jacob, the root of David. He's their father. So he's going to conquer Judah for their lives.
1928, he led the troops that killed Empress Zalditu's husband, who was not of royal blood, and became regent. He became emperor on November 2nd, 1930, and was crowned Haile Selassie I, King of Kings, King of Zion, conquering lion of the seed of Judah, power of the Trinity.
Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. And don't forget, then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind. Don't forget, Job is one of Christ's many names, and Job has 10 children. And that's how Jesus appeared to die, because Jesus is Job's firstborn. So Job's children appeared to die in the sight of man due to a whirlwind. So who created the whirlwind? Who enveloped the whirlwind? Elijah, also known as Elias, Jah himself. Follow God, not man, and know his name. Haile Jah, Jehovah, Selassie I, Elias, Elijah.